Every day, millions of people wake up carrying an invisible weight. It is not the weight of work, responsibility, or hardship. It is the weight of wondering what someone else might think. They choose their words carefully, not because they are dishonest, but because they are afraid. They hide their dreams, silence their opinions, soften their personalities, and shrink their ambitions to fit inside the comfort of other people's expectations. They become experts at reading faces, interpreting silence, and searching for approval in places where it was never meant to be found. And without realizing it, they spend years living a life designed by spectators instead of by their own hearts. There is a strange power that public opinion seems to have over us. A stranger's criticism can linger longer than 100 compliments. One careless remark can erase months of confidence. We often hand people authority over our emotions without ever asking whether they have earned that privilege. We allow passing opinions to become permanent beliefs about who we are. But the truth is this: the loudest voices around you are not always the wisest. And the people judging your journey rarely understand the battles you have fought in silence. The greatest tragedy is not being criticized. The greatest tragedy is becoming someone you no longer recognize simply to avoid criticism. Every time you deny your truth to satisfy someone else's comfort, a small part of your spirit grows quieter. Every dream postponed because of fear, every opportunity rejected because of imagined judgment, every authentic thought left unspoken becomes another brick in a prison you unknowingly build for yourself. And the painful irony is that the people whose approval you desperately seek are often too busy worrying about what others think of them. Real freedom begins the moment you realize that your value was never meant to be decided by applause or rejection. Your life is not a public vote. Your purpose does not require unanimous agreement. The people who change the world are rarely understood in the beginning because courage always looks unfamiliar to those who choose comfort. Every meaningful path demands the willingness to stand alone before others decide to stand with you. Today is not about becoming careless, cold, or indifferent to people. It is about discovering the wisdom to separate helpful guidance from meaningless noise. It is about understanding that respect is valuable, but approval is optional. It is about reclaiming the energy you have wasted, trying to convince everyone to understand you, and investing it instead in becoming the person you were created to be. Because the moment you stop living for the opinions of others is the moment you finally begin living for yourself. From the moment we enter the world, we begin absorbing messages about how we should behave, speak, look, and think. We learn that praise feels rewarding and criticism feels painful. As children, this is natural because acceptance often means safety and belonging. But as we grow older, many of us never outgrow the habit of measuring our worth through the eyes of others. We carry invisible scales wherever we go, constantly weighing every decision against the possibility of judgment. We hesitate before speaking in a meeting, sharing an idea, wearing something different, or chasing a dream because an unseen audience seems to be watching. This invisible prison is built brick by brick, not with walls of stone, but with fear, self-doubt, and imagined opinions. The remarkable thing about this prison is that its doors are never locked. Yet countless people remain inside because they believe the approval of others is more valuable than their own peace of mind. They spend years editing their personalities to fit expectations they never created. They become quieter than they truly are, smaller than they were meant to be, and more concerned with fitting in than standing out. Every decision begins with the same exhausting question: what will people think? That single question has delayed careers, ended dreams before they began, silenced voices that deserved to be heard, and convinced brilliant minds to settle for ordinary lives. What makes this prison even more deceptive is that much of the judgment we fear never actually exists. Most people are too occupied with their own struggles, insecurities, and responsibilities to spend much time analyzing someone else's choices. The criticism we imagine often becomes louder than any criticism we actually receive. Our minds create stories predicting embarrassment, rejection, or failure long before reality has a chance to unfold. We fight battles against opinions that have never been spoken. We surrender opportunities because of conversations that exist only inside our own thoughts. Fear of judgment also changes the way we see ourselves. Instead of asking whether something aligns with our values, we ask whether it will be accepted. Instead of pursuing what fulfills us, we pursue what impresses others. Over time, we lose the ability to recognize our authentic desires because they have been buried beneath years of seeking approval. We become actors performing a role rather than individuals living a genuine life. The applause may come, but it never feels satisfying because deep inside we know it is not truly meant for us. It is meant for the version of ourselves we created to make other people comfortable. History has shown that every person who introduced meaningful change faced misunderstanding. New ideas are almost always questioned before they are celebrated. Those who dared to think differently, create differently, or live differently were often criticized long before they were admired. If they had allowed public opinion to determine their direction, many of the world's greatest achievements would never have existed. Progress has never belonged to those who waited for universal approval. It has always belonged to those who accepted that criticism is often the price of authenticity. The invisible prison grows stronger every time we give strangers permission to define our confidence. A careless comment on social media, a disapproving glance, or a dismissive opinion can suddenly outweigh years of hard work because we mistakenly assign those moments tremendous authority. Yet no one else possesses the complete story of your life. They have not lived your experiences, carried your burdens, or understood the dreams that keep you awake at night. Their perspective is limited, shaped by their own beliefs, fears, and circumstances. Allowing limited perspectives to determine limitless potential is one of the greatest losses a person can experience. Freedom begins with recognizing that opinions are inevitable, but obedience to those opinions is a choice. The voices around you will always exist. Some will encourage, some will criticize, and some will misunderstand completely. The question is not whether people will think something about you. They always will. The real question is whether you will surrender your identity to satisfy people who cannot live your life, carry your responsibilities, or fulfill your purpose. Every moment spent seeking permission from the world is a moment borrowed from becoming the person you were always capable of becoming. Every cautious step taken to avoid judgment quietly reinforces the walls of that invisible prison until fear feels normal, confidence feels distant, and authenticity begins to seem like a dangerous risk rather than the greatest expression of personal freedom. There is a quiet danger in living for approval because it rarely announces itself as a problem. It often disguises itself as kindness, responsibility, or the desire to make everyone happy. At first, it feels harmless. You say yes when you want to say no. You stay silent when your heart wants to speak. You accept less than you deserve because you fear disappointing someone. These choices seem small, almost insignificant, but over time they begin to shape your entire identity. Little by little, you stop asking what you truly want and start asking what will make everyone else comfortable. That is the moment when approval becomes more than a habit. It becomes a way of life. The need for approval is like drinking salt water. The more you consume, the thirstier you become. No amount of praise is ever enough because your confidence depends on something you cannot control. One compliment lifts your spirit, but one criticism tears it apart. Your emotions become tied to the unpredictable opinions of other people. Some days you feel valuable because you are accepted. Other days you feel invisible because someone failed to notice you. Your self-worth rises and falls with every reaction, leaving you emotionally exhausted and constantly searching for reassurance. One of the greatest costs of seeking approval is the loss of authenticity. Every person enters the world with unique gifts, perspectives, and dreams, but those qualities often fade when the desire to fit in becomes stronger than the courage to stand out. Instead of expressing your true thoughts, you repeat what others want to hear. Instead of following your passion, you choose the path that earns the most applause. Instead of building a life that reflects your values, you construct one that satisfies expectations. From the outside, everything may appear successful, but inside there is a growing emptiness because you know the life you are living no longer belongs to you. People-pleasing also creates relationships built on performance rather than honesty. When others only know the version of you that constantly agrees, sacrifices, and avoids conflict, they never truly know who you are. They know the mask, not the person behind it. While these relationships may seem peaceful, they often lack genuine connection because authenticity has been replaced by approval. Real respect is never earned by abandoning yourself. It is earned by showing others who you truly are, even when your truth is different from theirs. Another hidden cost is the opportunities that quietly disappeared. Fear of disapproval keeps talented people from starting businesses, applying for promotions, sharing creative ideas, or pursuing meaningful goals. Countless dreams remain unfinished, not because people lacked ability, but because they feared criticism more than they desired growth. Every extraordinary achievement requires stepping into uncertainty, where judgment is almost guaranteed. Those who wait until everyone supports their vision usually wait forever. Greatness has never depended on universal agreement. It has always required the courage to move forward despite disagreement. Seeking approval also steals emotional energy. Imagine how much time is spent replaying conversations, worrying about first impressions, overthinking social interactions, or trying to predict what someone else might think. That mental energy could have been invested in learning, creating, healing, or growing. Instead, it is consumed by endless attempts to manage perceptions that can never be fully controlled. The truth is that no matter how carefully you behave, someone will misunderstand you. No matter how kind you are, someone will criticize you. No matter how hard you try, you cannot control the stories people choose to tell about you. Perhaps the greatest tragedy is reaching the end of a chapter in life and realizing that many of your biggest decisions were made to satisfy expectations that were never truly yours. You followed a path because it looked respectable. You remained in places that no longer inspired you because leaving might invite criticism. You ignored your inner voice until it became almost impossible to hear. Meanwhile, the life you genuinely desired waited patiently in the background, hoping you would one day have the courage to choose it. Approval can feel comforting for a moment, but it can never replace self-respect. The applause of the crowd fades quickly, while the consequences of betraying your own values remain for years. A life built on pleasing everyone eventually becomes a life where you struggle to recognize yourself, where every decision feels borrowed, every achievement feels incomplete, and every success carries the quiet question of who you had to become just to earn acceptance from people who were never meant to define your worth. There comes a defining moment in every person's life when they must choose whose voice will carry the greatest authority. Will it be the endless opinions of the world, or will it be the quiet wisdom within? This choice determines far more than confidence. It shapes relationships, careers, dreams, and the direction of an entire life. The freedom that so many people search for is not found in changing everyone else's opinion. It is found in changing the value we place on those opinions. When your respect for yourself becomes stronger than your need for approval, life begins to unfold in an entirely different way. Self-respect is often misunderstood. It is not arrogance, pride, or believing you are better than others. It is the calm understanding that your worth does not increase because someone praises you, nor does it decrease because someone criticizes you. It is knowing that your character, values, and purpose are not for sale to the highest bidder of public approval. A person with self-respect listens to advice without becoming dependent on it. They welcome constructive criticism without allowing it to define their identity. They remain open to learning while refusing to surrender the core of who they are. The world constantly encourages comparison. Social media highlights perfect moments while hiding difficult realities. Success is measured by followers, appearances, possessions, and recognition. In such an environment, it becomes easy to believe that your value depends on how your life compares to someone else's. But comparison is a race with no finish line. There will always be someone who seems more accomplished, more admired, or more successful. If your confidence depends on being ahead of others, you will never experience lasting peace. Self-respect shifts your attention away from comparison and toward personal growth. Instead of asking, "Am I better than someone else?" you begin asking, "Am I becoming a better version of myself than I was yesterday?" One of the greatest signs of self-respect is the ability to say no without guilt. Many people exhaust themselves trying to satisfy every request, solve every problem, and meet every expectation. They fear that setting boundaries will disappoint others or make them seem selfish. But healthy boundaries are not acts of rejection. They are acts of self-preservation. Every time you protect your time, your energy, and your peace, you remind yourself that your life has value. You teach others how to treat you by the standards you refuse to compromise. Self-respect also transforms the way you respond to failure. When your identity depends on external success, every setback feels like proof that you are not enough. But when your identity is rooted in your own values, failure becomes a lesson rather than a life sentence. You stop seeing mistakes as evidence of weakness and begin viewing them as necessary steps toward wisdom. Confidence no longer comes from getting everything right. It comes from knowing that even when things go wrong, your dignity remains untouched. People who possess deep self-respect are not free from criticism. They simply refuse to build their lives around it. They understand that every opinion reflects the experiences, beliefs, and limitations of the person expressing it. Some criticism is valuable because it helps us grow. Some is simply noise created by misunderstanding, insecurity, or personal bias. Wisdom lies in knowing the difference. Instead of absorbing every negative word, they evaluate it carefully, keeping what is useful and releasing what serves no purpose. Perhaps the most beautiful result of self-respect is inner peace. When you stop chasing approval, you recover enormous amounts of emotional energy. You no longer replay conversations in your mind, wondering whether you said the right thing. You stop apologizing for existing as your authentic self. Decisions become clearer because they are guided by principles rather than popularity. Relationships become healthier because they are built on honesty instead of performance. You discover that true confidence is not loud or attention-seeking. It is quiet, steady, and deeply rooted in the knowledge that you do not need permission to live with integrity. The greatest freedom does not come when the world finally understands you. It comes when you no longer require the world to understand you before giving yourself permission to pursue your purpose, protect your peace, honor your values, and walk forward with unwavering confidence. Knowing that the strongest foundation any person can ever stand upon is the unshakable respect they have for themselves, rather than the changing opinions of those around them. Criticism has the power to change the direction of a life, but not because of the words themselves. Its power comes from the meaning we choose to give those words. Two people can hear the exact same criticism and walk away with completely different outcomes. One allows it to become a permanent wound, questioning every ability and every decision. The other accepts it as information, examines it carefully, learns from what is useful, and leaves behind everything that serves no purpose. The difference is not found in the criticism. It is found in the mindset of the person receiving it. Many people spend their lives trying to avoid criticism. believing that silence will protect them. They stay hidden, avoid taking risks, and refuse to pursue opportunities that might attract attention. Yet avoiding criticism often means avoiding growth. Every meaningful achievement invites opinions. Every person who dares to create something new, challenge old ideas, or follow an uncommon path will eventually face resistance. The greater your purpose, the more likely it is that someone will misunderstand it. This is not a sign that you are moving in the wrong direction. Often, it is evidence that you are moving beyond what others find familiar or comfortable. One of the greatest mistakes we can make is assuming that criticism always reflects truth. Every opinion passes through the experiences, beliefs, emotions, and limitations of the person expressing it. Someone who has never attempted your journey may criticize your ambition. Someone living with fear may question your courage. Someone who has accepted mediocrity may see your determination as arrogance. Their words often reveal more about their perspective than about your potential. This does not mean every criticism should be ignored. It means every criticism should be examined rather than automatically accepted. There is wisdom in learning to separate constructive criticism from destructive criticism. Constructive criticism is offered with the intention of helping you improve. It points toward growth, even if it feels uncomfortable to hear. Destructive criticism, however, seeks only to discourage, embarrass, or diminish. It offers judgment without guidance, negativity without purpose, and opinion without understanding. When you develop the ability to distinguish between the two, you stop carrying emotional burdens that were never yours to bear. Criticism can become one of life's greatest teachers when approached with humility instead of fear. Instead of asking, "Why are they attacking me?" ask, "Is there something here I can learn?" Even the harshest feedback may contain a small piece of truth that helps refine your character or strengthen your skills. Growth belongs to those who remain teachable without becoming fragile. Confidence is not pretending to know everything. Confidence is having enough security to admit there is always room to become wiser. History repeatedly reminds us that nearly every person remembered for making a lasting impact faced criticism before receiving recognition. Their ideas were questioned. Their decisions were doubted. Their visions were dismissed as unrealistic. If they had measured their future by the opinions surrounding them, they would have abandoned their purpose long before reaching their destination. They understood that criticism is often the price paid for originality. Those who think differently are rarely applauded in the beginning because the unfamiliar often makes people uncomfortable before it inspires them. There is also a hidden strength that develops when you stop fearing criticism. Resilience begins to replace insecurity. You become less reactive and more reflective. Instead of allowing every negative comment to shake your confidence, you learn to stand firmly in your values. You recognize that your identity cannot be built on the changing emotions of strangers. Every challenge strengthens your emotional endurance, making you more capable of handling future obstacles with wisdom rather than panic. The goal is not to become emotionally numb or indifferent to every opinion. The goal is to become emotionally mature enough to hear criticism without losing yourself. You can listen without surrendering your confidence. You can improve without questioning your worth. You can accept correction without believing you are a failure. When criticism becomes fuel instead of fear, every obstacle becomes an opportunity to grow stronger. Every setback becomes a lesson that sharpens your character, and every doubtful voice becomes another reminder that your future should never be limited by the opinions of those who cannot see the full measure of your potential or the purpose that continues to call you forward. There is a remarkable difference between existing and truly living. Many people exist according to the expectations of others. They follow paths chosen for them, speak words that earn approval, and make decisions designed to avoid criticism. From the outside, everything may appear successful, yet inside, they carry a quiet emptiness because their lives are shaped by permission rather than purpose. True living begins the moment you realize that no one else can grant you the right to become who you were created to be. That permission has always belonged to you. From an early age, we are taught to seek approval. We look for praise from parents, teachers, friends, and society. While encouragement can be valuable, it becomes dangerous when we believe we cannot move forward without it. We begin waiting for someone to tell us we are ready, talented enough, intelligent enough, or worthy enough. Days become months and months become years, while dreams remain untouched because we are standing at the starting line, waiting for permission that may never arrive. The truth is that some of the most meaningful decisions in life must be made before anyone else believes in them. Living without permission does not mean becoming rebellious or refusing wise advice. It means understanding the difference between guidance and dependence. Advice can help illuminate the path, but it should never replace your own judgment. Every person sees the world through the lens of their own experiences, fears, and beliefs. Their opinions may be sincere, but they cannot fully understand the calling placed within your heart. If you build your future entirely upon someone else's expectations, you may achieve their version of success while losing your own sense of fulfillment. One of the greatest barriers to purposeful living is the fear of making mistakes. Many people hesitate because they believe every decision must be perfect before they take action. They overthink every opportunity, searching for certainty in a world that offers very little of it. Yet growth has never belonged to those who waited until fear disappeared. It belongs to those who accepted uncertainty and moved forward anyway. Every accomplished person has made mistakes, experienced rejection, and faced moments of doubt. Their success was not the absence of failure, but the refusal to let failure become their identity. Purpose also requires courage, because not everyone will understand your choices. Some people will question your direction simply because it is different from their own. Others may criticize your ambition because it reminds them of dreams they abandoned long ago. There will always be voices encouraging you to remain comfortable, predictable, and familiar, but comfort has never been the birthplace of greatness. Every significant transformation begins the moment someone chooses conviction over convenience and purpose over popularity. When you stop living for public approval You begin noticing opportunities that fear once concealed. You speak with greater honesty because you are no longer trying to satisfy every listener. You pursue meaningful goals because your motivation comes from within rather than from applause. Your relationships become healthier because they are built upon authenticity instead of performance. You stop exhausting yourself trying to control how others perceive you and invest that energy into becoming the person you genuinely admired. This shift creates a deep sense of peace because your confidence is no longer attached to changing opinions but rooted in enduring values. Living without permission also inspires others in ways you may never fully realize. Every person who chooses authenticity gives silent encouragement to someone else trapped by fear. Courage is contagious. When people witness someone standing firmly in their truth despite criticism, they begin questioning the invisible limits they have placed upon themselves. Your willingness to live honestly becomes evidence that freedom is possible. You may never know whose life changes simply because they watched you refuse to compromise your values for acceptance. At the end of life, very few people regret the criticism they received. More often, they regret the opportunities they ignored, the dreams they postponed, the words they never spoke, and the life they never allowed themselves to live because they spent too much time waiting for approval from people who were never responsible for their destiny. The greatest achievement is not becoming universally admired, but becoming unmistakably authentic, walking your own path with integrity, embracing both success and failure as teachers, and discovering that the deepest form of freedom is found when your purpose becomes stronger than your fear of being misunderstood, allowing every step you take to be guided by conviction instead of permission